Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Sports Legends. Well, mostly football legends by Sports by Compion. We are going to get back to covering some of the legends of this NFL game. Our co-host Corey couldn't be here today, but that's okay, boys and girls. I will walk you through the legend of J.J motherfucking Watt. That's right. Normally we covered football players that have been around for a while, put a very lengthy time in, and have been retired for a while, such as Michael Allstar or Jason Taylor, some of the earlier people we covered. However, J.J. Watt was my favorite NFL player while he was playing. Played in the NFL from 2011 until just this past year, finally retired. One of the absolute legends of the game, in my opinion. Played the game the right way, always had that extra motor, that extra strength. I'll never forget that fucking one of those years where he won number one player on the overall NFL Top 100 list, which is a great list. You guys should check out every year. It's a good way to learn about new up-and-coming players. I remember hearing about Earl Thomas back when Earl Thomas was nobody with the Seahawks, well before they won the Super Bowl, well before the Legion of Boom was around. I remember hearing about him and thinking, I wonder who this guy is. He seems pretty good. This was in his rookie contract, and he proceeded to be one of the best safeties in the NFL. So, great way to learn about new players. But I remember the year J.J. Watt won number one. The whole music video started out with "Turn Down for Watt," and I think he was the heart and soul of that Texas, not only defense, but that Texas team for years and years. They were just not very relevant. Could never seem to really get good quarterback play around J.J. He had Matt Schaub kick through there. Couple different quarterbacks, but never really anything too substantial, and JJ was always the strongest point of that team. Had crazy amounts of sacks. I think if he wouldn't have had so many injuries, there was a while there where he was just injured like every season for a minute there, and it really derailed him a lot from what he could do. He's already, I think, going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I sure fucking hope so, at least. But he would have been even more dominant if he could have stayed on the field more. That said, he did have a very long career, and I think that's going to really help him to get into the Hall of Fame right away. And the thing is, he was dominant all the way through his career. It wasn't like he ever fell off too hard. His last year was Arizona. Like, the Cardinals sucked, but it wasn't J.J. Watt's fault, man. The guy was balling out, had plenty of good stats. I think he even had a sack his very last game. The game before that, I remember against the Buccaneers, he absolutely tore us apart, man. Just popping through that line, shutting down our run every 2 seconds. Yeah, him and the rest of the Cardinals definitely made defensive line made it very difficult to run the ball that day. So he's very much a talented player. I respect him going out towards the top, before his play starts to diminish. Warren Sapp was the same way. A lot of these legends just don't want to see their, it's tough to be able to see the play, know what you have to do, and not be able to get there to make the play. That's how Warren Sapp described why he needed to retire. He watched Brett Favre throw this long touchdown pass, and he's like, okay, time to get out of here. So I think J.J. Watt probably felt some of that similar pressure. A lot of people talk about his brother T.J. now. And, unfortunately for him, championships, and not only championships, but even, playoff runs really eluded him throughout his career. With the Arizona Cardinals, they had a quick first-round exit, not last year, but the year before that. And I would say similar with Houston Texans. I can't exactly remember. But this guy walked on to the Wisconsin Badgers. That's right. The Wisconsin Badgers, I think he actually came over from a Division II football team. Let's see here. So, yeah, he played, he went into a Division II football team, Central Michigan, where he was actually playing tight end. And then eventually came back over to the Central Michigan career. Here we go. Played 14 games, 77 receiving on 8 receptions. They wanted him to move to offensive tackle, but instead he went to the University of Wisconsin, where he redshirted the 2018 season, played 13 games in 2009, but he really didn't kick off more till the 2010 season, which is when he was going into the NFL. He finished with 32 solo tackles, 12 tackle assists, 4.5 sacks, and 15 tackles for loss, 4 passes defended. He also earned his first letter to Michigan, recorded his collegiate interception. Overall, played 13 games and led for a team in blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I was wrong about that 2009. That was the 9 season I was talking about. But later on in the 2020 season, he did much better, and that's how he ended up being the first overall pick. He talks about this whenever he was with the Arizona Cardinals and their They did that Amazon All or Nothing show, and he was talking to a younger defensive end. He was just like, man, when I first came into the league, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was messing up here, messing up there, and I was just like, what am I doing? You know what? If I'm going to be messing up like this, I'm going to mess up doing it my way. So ever since that, this was like his rookie year. One of the coaches was yelling at him. He's like, if people are going to be yelling at me, I might as well do it my way and fuck up my way and have them yell at me instead of trying to do something I don't quite understand and still getting yelled at anyway. So I think that's a very crucial thing to remember as a young defensive end or any player out there in general. Play your sport. If you can't exactly remember what you're supposed to do, you should definitely study more. But in the meantime, just follow through and do the things you got to do. But man, JJ started off hot. He came into the league with 5.5 sacks, but then he really took off that next year. He had 20 sacks in 2012. Absolute madness. Went on to continue to have a good season in 2013, ended up with 10 more sacks. Really burst onto the scene as one of the premier pass rushers. 2015 was another amazing season with him for 17.5 sacks. And then, 2016 was a rough season for him since he underwent back surgery and herniated disc, getting back to those injuries I was talking about. I was only able to record 1 sack there. I think he also had injuries in 2017, which is evident here after leaving the 5th game of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. Sort of a bummer because, like I mentioned, he could have been so much better if he wouldn't have missed some of these seasons. But he did come back strong after that. Coming up to the 2018 season, got some sacks himself. And, officially some really great stuff here. We can continue to go through that list, but I got his other list right here. So going on from what we were talking about, 2013, 15, 16, 17. So 18, he finally comes back. Not fully back, but he still gets 16 sacks. So you know what? What am I talking about? He was fully back in full strength. Houston Texans, his last year there, I think he got injured yet again, but he still managed to record 5 sacks. Still managed to be a big part of them. Interception, ran it back for a touchdown. He actually had a couple touchdown catches throughout his career. That's this in 2015. And then he went to the Arizona Cardinals, which he was unfortunately injured most of the time over there as well in 2021. He didn't actually manage to make it back. I think he got injured early and then came back towards the very beginning of their playoff game. Dude was out there with like a bionic arm. He looked cool as fuck. But they absolutely got destroyed by the eventual Super Bowl champions, the Rams. However, that following year, as I was just mentioning, 2022, he came back to the Arizona Cardinals and records 12.5 sacks. Solid year out of him on a losing team. We've already said a lot of great things about J.J. Watt, but this guy was just absolutely one of my favorite defensive ends ever. I'm really happy that I got to see him play and got to see his mentality for football. He has one of the favorite lines we've said here on Sports by Compion before. Success is not owned, it's leased, and rent is due every day. Sports by Compion.